Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we are trying to discuss about the array list implementation methods here. So under this array list, we discuss about the multiple methods. The first one is empty, size method, add method. So one more add method with index as a first parameter and object as a second parameter. And later we discuss about the add all method and we discuss about the remove method. Now, what are the additional important method we are having here? Now, if you go to this particular collection.txt, now here contains method. Now we discuss about the remove method. Now here we have a remove all method. Now the remove all basically what it will do internally, it will try to call the same remove method here. Okay, so before going to discuss about the contains, now we'll discuss about the remove all here, and later we can go back to the contains method here. Okay, now observe. Now what I'm trying to explain here, I'm trying to comment out this remove method here. Now here array list dot remove all, array list dot remove all. Now here I'm trying to pass this particular whatever the objects we are having here, list of these many records. Now here what I'm doing here, I'm trying to give these values. So these are the three values I'm trying to remove from this particular current array list here. Okay, now here I will put a breakpoint. Now we can debug this application how this array list remove all method is implemented internally. Okay, now here you can see add all method. Now finally I'm calling this particular remove all here. Finally I'm calling this particular remove all method. Now what I'm trying to do here, I'm going for the internal implementation. So this is a list of method. Now once we came back to the list of method, again I'm trying to call this particular remove all here. Now carefully observe, whenever we are calling this particular remove all, internally which method it is calling? Batch remove. Okay, so this is the batch remove internally it is calling it. Now what exactly this batch remove is doing? Now here we are passing first parameter as a collection of object. Now the complement we are passing 0 from the 0 index onwards. Now current size is, what is the current size we are having? 6 here. Okay, so these are the parameters we are passing here. Now let me go to the internal implementation. Now here you can see, so this is something like a collection of objects. We have a 3 objects 4, 5, 6, 3, 6, 5, 1, 4, 2. These 3 objects now we are trying to remove from this particular collections. Now complement false, size is the C, current to the C size is 3 here. The collection size is basically 3 here. Okay, now we'll see what exactly it is checking here. Objects required not null. So if you provide the null, it will throw an exception. This particular object, it requires a not null here. Okay, this particular object internally it is required a not null. Now if I show you the internal implementation, if the object is null, what we are doing here, we are trying to throw an exception called null pointer exception. Okay, we are throwing an exception called null pointer exception. Now in our case, this object is not null. This object is having some values here. What is the values it's having? Something like 3 objects. Now coming back to here, we are returning an object. Now we are checking element data. Currently how many records we are having element data? 6 records. Now here you can see 0 to 5. 0 to 5 is nothing but 6 records we are having. So using this particular 6 records, now how we are trying to remove here. So carefully observe. Now here R is equals to from. What is the from? Now here whatever this particular int from we provided. So which index we are trying to copy? From 0 index onwards. Now this particular 0 value, it's initialized into this particular R, and here we are increasing the R plus. But here there is no condition. Okay, inside this particular for loop, there is no condition. So we have only initialization and iteration concept. But here we don't have any Here we don't have any, the particular section of called conditional block. Now we'll see how this condition is working. So R equals to N. So what is the end we are having? 6. What is the from? Like from to end is nothing but between this particular range. Now we are going to process this particular section of code here. Now here you can see contains. Now which method we are calling internally? Contains method. Contains method we are calling. But here, if this particular C dot contains not equals to this particular complements. Now what happening basically? So this is something like false we provided. It should not equals to this particular false here. Okay. Now we'll see what is returning basically this one. So what is the value it is returning? False it is returning. Okay. So whenever it is returning false, it is not going to be satisfied. Now second time it is checking. Now second time also it is returning false. Third time also returning false. But if you see, so this particular section of code, now it is written as a true. So why it is written as a true? Because here whatever we are having ESR R, what is the R value? 2. In the second index location, whatever the value we are having, now it is matched with this particular entire collection. Now if you see, so 4, 5, 6. The ES of R 4, 5, 6 we are having. Now what is this particular C? This is we are calling from this particular method parameter. Okay. Now these are the object we are trying to remove here. Now this particular ES is coming from this particular original element data, and this particular C we passed these objects we are trying to remove from this particular main collection. Okay. So now what you can understand basically here. Now what we can understand basically here, whatever the 6 original object we are having, from this particular 6 original object, the parameter value we are trying to remove here. Okay, the parameter values we are trying to remove. Now, so whenever we are trying to remove these parameter values, first the given object is available or not we are checking. The parameter object is available under the main method or not we are checking here. So now finally this method is available here. Okay, so whenever it is available, this condition is satisfying here. Now we are checking the break here. Now whenever we are checking this particular break, now we are coming out of this particular loop. Now whenever we are coming out of this particular loop, now what is the next step here? Currently, what is the R value? 2. Currently, R value is 2. Okay, so whenever this R value is true, what we will do here? R plus plus. So that the value is going to be increased here. Now still the W is 2, but R value is 3 because of this particular post increment. Now another important section, object E, R less than and R plus plus here. Okay, so here again we are trying to perform this particular operation. So currently R value is 3 and end value is 6. From this particular R value 3 and end value 6, this particular loop is going to be repeated. Okay, this section of code is going to be repeated. Now again what we are doing here. So ESR in this particular third index location, whatever the value we are having, it should satisfy with this particular contains here. Now finally what happening here? Now what is the value we are getting here? Okay, we cannot identify here, but here so this particular condition not satisfied. Because of this particular E, we are unable to check this particular expression, what exactly the value it is returning here. Okay, so second section. Now third section, it is satisfied. So why it is satisfied basically here? Now C contains. C is something like how many records we are having here? This particular C. How many we are having? three records, 456, 365 and 142. Now here, what is this particular R? What is this particular R? R basically, currently R is a 5. Okay, in the fifth index location, what is the value we are having here? Here if you see, in the fifth index location, what is the value we are having? ABC. Okay, so this ABC basically it is not satisfied here. Equals to equals we are checking basically. Now the only one record, the ABC related record, it is satisfied with this particular false here. Okay, it is satisfied with this particular false here. Now after this, whenever we are performing here, what is doing here? ES W plus plus and E. So what is the E value currently? ABC. Okay, currently ABC we are having. Now, so this ABC in the W index location, in the second index location, this values now it's going to be stored. So if we observe carefully, now what exactly it is doing this particular ES, I want to, okay, so this is the C related. So what is the value we are having? The three values. What are the three values basically? 456, 356 and 142, 0, 1, 2. Okay, these are the three sizes here. Now the main size. Now this is the ES related. This is something like ES. Now ES, how many we are having? 6 records. Okay, now if I provide 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as well as 5. Now what I am doing here, what are the original objects we are having? Original object we are having ABC 1, 2, 3 XYZ and 4, 5, 6 3, 5, 6 and 1, 4, 2. So one more we are having. Let's see what is the current object we are having. Okay, I provided wrong values. Now let me. So now what you need to understand here, what is the original objects we are having? XYZ 1, 2, 3. Okay, here we are having XYZ. And second one is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now 1, 4, 2. And lastly, we are having this particular ABC. Okay, so this is the ES. ES is nothing but this particular elementary data here. Now, what we are doing here, if you observe carefully, first what we did, this for loop, what we are doing basically here, we are checking the any object. So if these three objects are available, any one of this object is available under this particular main ES. Okay, so this is the main ES we are having. Getting the point? This is the main ES we are having, and this is the parameter, the method parameter, remove all method parameter we are passing. But what I'm doing here, so I'm using the contains method. So contains basically the given parameter, whether the given parameter object is available under this particular main object or. So now whenever it is reached to this particular second index location, now this object is now matched here. Okay, so this object is going to be matched here. So whenever it is matched here, we are doing the break here. Now whenever we are doing the break, what is at the time of break, what is the R value? 2. R value 2. Okay, now what I am doing here, the 858 here, whatever the R value we are having, now I'm increasing, like I'm initializing into this particular W. After this, the R value, now I'm increasing it. Okay, so if you see R value 2, it is become 3. Now W value, it is become 2. Okay, so this is the increment operator. Now after this, now here what I am doing is R value 3 and 3 less than end. End, what is the value we provided? 6 here. Now using this particular 3 to 6, using this particular 3 to 6, now again we are calling this particular one more contains method here. Okay, here one more contains, but here if you see, here not equals to complement and here equals to complement. Now what you understand here it should not be the false, but here it should be false. It should be false. In which case it should be false here? Only because here these three are again it is going to be matched here. Okay, so it is going to start with the 3. Now 3 and 4. So these two are going to be written as a true. Written as a true because the contains method already available this 3 and 4 indexes. Now only one index, that is called 5. This value, this ABC value, okay, this ABC value, it is not available under this particular C because this is a C. Okay, how many values we are passing in under the C? Only 3. But here, this already matched in the above for loop. The 4, 5, 6 already matched in the above for loop. Now we start from this particular index location because our value we are increasing into 3. Okay, our value we are increasing. Now whenever we are increasing, now we'll compare these two, 3 and 4. For this 3 and 4, it is returning true. Contains method will return true because the 3 and 4 already having under the collection, the C parameter. Okay, so only one object, that is called ABC. This is no longer available under this particular what we can call it as a contains here. Okay, what we can call it as this particular contains. So that is matching. Now what is the W value? 2. What is the W value? 2. Now what we are doing here, like line number 862, what we are doing here in the second index location. Now what is the E? E is something like ABC. Okay, E is something like ABC. Now what you are observing is in the second index location, in place of this particular 4, 5, 6, now we are going to pass as a ABC. Okay, the line number 862, what is doing it? In place of this particular 4, 5, 6, now it is going to provide as a ABC. But still these values are having 3, 5, 6, 1, 4 to ABC. Still we are having the values. Now we'll see how these values are going to be removed here. Okay, how these values are going to be removed here. Now if you observe carefully here, we are coming out here. Now finally N minus W. N minus W. So W how much? 3. N how much? 6. Now how much the size we are going to get the mod count here? Mod count basically already some 3 or 4 we are having. Now it is increased to 7 here because we are doing the plus equals. So this is we discussed in the previous example, component assignment operators here. Okay. So now after this, here this is the element data. Now this is the W we are having and end here. Now what you are observing is from this particular W location, something like 3. Now in the 2 index location called 6, we are doing this particular shift to tail over. Now what exactly it will do? It will try to remove the unwanted objects. So how many unwanted objects we are having now? From this, these are the unwanted objects here. Because of this particular W is providing 3 and end is providing 6. So between these, now these 3 objects are going to be removed here. Okay, so we'll see how this shift operation, so whatever this particular method we are having, now how it is going to be implemented internally. Now carefully observe. Now if you observe carefully, here we are doing the system.array copy. After this, here we are making the ESFI null. ESFI null. One object is null, second object is null, third object is null. Now finally this loop is going to come out of this. Now if you see this particular ES, how many we are having here? Only 3. 0, 1, 2. Okay, 0, 1, 2 we are having. Now what happened these 3? Now it is made as a null values. Okay, now we made as a null values. Now if you observe carefully, only 3 records. Only 3 records. Now what you observe carefully, using the contains, first we are observing how many records we want to remove. After this, so we are calling this particular shift to tail over based on this particular from index location and to index location. So LO is 3 and HI is 6. Now between this, now size and size minus HI to LO. and it is going to return these many times here. So it's something like 3 times it's going to repeat. So once it is repeated 3 times, all the values we are going to make as a null. All the values now we are going to make as a null. So this is what we need to understand. So remove all is a simple one. First it is going to check the contains whether the objects are available or not in the main array list object here, something like element data. So once those objects are available based on the index location, so those objects are going to be removed here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand regarding this particular remove all. Now whatever I observe this remove method internally, this remove method internally what it will do, directly we are providing the index location. So it will find out the index location and lower the value, remove this particular current value. Okay, what about this particular remove? Now this remove which is coming from the collection interface, first it will try to compare whether the given object is available or not. So once the object is available, it will try to find out the index location. Once it is find out the index location, it will try to remove the particular object here. Okay, so now you can see XYZ 1 2 3 ABC. These are the final records we are getting after calling this particular removal with multiple values here. Okay, this is what we need to understand regarding this particular remove all here. Now, so go for this particular another important section, like another method here. Now contains method. So what exactly this contains method is doing here? Now it's a simple one. Contains basically it will try to check whether the given object is available or not here. Okay, now I'm trying to comment out remove all. So I don't want to remove array list dot contains. Now here I'm passing 789. This object basically it is not available. Now we'll see how this contains method is implemented internally. Okay, now let me run this example. So add all contains method. Now let me go to the internal implementation. Now what we are doing here we are calling the index of. Index of. Now what you need to understand here. So contains method internally it is calling the index of. Now by providing this particular object as a parameter. Now here you can see this is the index of method we are having, and internally we are calling index of range. Now here object we are passing, so start index is 0 and the size we are having 6 here. From this particular 0 to 6, whether this given object is available or not. If it is available, what happens internally? It will try to return as a in the which index location this object is available. Okay, so now what you need to understand here, I'm calling the index of, internally it is calling the index of range. Now finally we come back to here. Okay, element data. So this is the element data 0 to 6. Sorry, 0 to 5. It is something like 6 objects we are having. Now you can see if the object is null, it is calling this, otherwise it's going. But if you see the index of range, what we are doing here, we are trying to call the equals method, so that if the object is satisfied with equals, it is trying to return I. Otherwise, return -1. Return -1. Okay, what is the starting value? 0. What is the end value? 6 here. So 0 to 6, now it will try to keep on executing this. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the last iteration. But as of now, we could not find the given object is no longer available, because whatever the value we given 789, it is not there. Okay, 789, it is not there here. So this is what we need to understand here. Now observe carefully, what is the value it is returning? -1. Now whenever it is trying to return as a -1, the index of method will also return -1. But here what we are doing it, if the index of method it is trying to return greater than or equals to 0. So greater than or equals to 0 is something like only positive values. Only positive values. Like these values will satisfy 1, 2, 3, 4 something. So these are the positive values. Either you can provide the 0 or you can provide the more than 0. Okay, provide 0 or more than 0 here. This is what we need to understand. But currently what happening here? So it is getting as a -1 here. It is getting as a -1 here. So this is what we need to understand here. Okay. Now -1, it will try to return as a false only. Because here, what is the operator we are using? Greater than or equals to. Now it should be something like 0, or it should be 1 or more than 1. But currently, what is the value we are returning? -1. -1 greater than or equals to 0. It is not going to be satisfied this particular condition. It will return as a false here. So what we can observe carefully, contains method, what is doing internally? It is calling the index of method. It is trying to find out the index for the given object. But as of now, so it does not identify the object, so it will try to return as a false here. It will try to return as a false here. This is what we need to understand here. Okay, this is what we need to understand here. Now, contains method, what is returning here? It is trying to return as a false. Now, I'm calling the two times this contains method. First 789 and later xyz. Okay, later xyz. Now if you observe carefully, the first contains what it will do, the second contains what it will do. Now you can see is empty, false, and size. So after this, it is trying to return as a false. Now I want to comment out these two because so little bit is confusion. Now what exactly the contains method now it will return. Okay, the first one is it is trying to return as a false. For this particular contains, it is trying to return as a true. Okay, so why it is returning the second one? XYZ. The XYZ, it is there. But whatever this particular 789, it is not there. 789, it is not available under this particular object. It's a simple one. It will try to, for example, if you are having so 20 records, from this particular 20 records, it will try to repeat one by one. It will find out the given object is available or not. Okay, if the object is available, now what happens internally? It will try to return as a true, otherwise it will try to return as a false. So this is what the contains method here. Okay, it's simply checking the given object is available or not. Okay, now what you need to understand here, the another important section called, so we discuss about this particular two array. Two array, basically what it will do, it will try to convert the object into object array. Let's call this array list dot two array. Now we need to observe this particular two array, how it is implemented internally. Now this array list class will try to debug one and like all the methods here, so that we can easily observe the remaining implementation classes, how it is implemented internally. Okay, now coming back to here, now we discuss about the contains method. Now we need to discuss about the two array. So it's a simple one, arrays dot copy of. Arrays dot copy of method. So it is one of the static method. It is available under this particular arrays class. Now what exactly it is doing now? Based on the elements, whatever the element data we are having currently, now this element data, it is going to be converted into the objects array based on this particular size here. Okay, so what is the size we are having? 6 here. Okay, now if I show you this, so because of this static implementation, what we are doing here, internally we are calling the copy of, so original and current length, and this is the class. What is the class we are trying to pass here? Something like a object array. Okay, now if you see the copy of what exactly it is doing here, if the copy type, if it is a object type here, internally it is trying to create a new object array here based on the length. What is the length we are passing? 6 we are passing. Okay, Currently we are having 6 objects. So once object is created, we are calling the system.array copy. Using this, now it will copy the all the values here. So this is what the copy of method will do here. Okay, now this is we discuss about the array list dot copy of method. So now after this, what we can observe here, another important method. Now iterator. So what exactly this iterator is doing now? So this is very important method. Now we need to understand it. Now for example, after calling this particular to array, now I am trying to call iterator. Okay, so we'll discuss about the iterator, how exactly this iterator it is going to be implemented internally. Okay, now we reach to the iterator. Now we need to understand the internal implementation of this particular iterator. Now what we are doing basically, we are not doing this particular here. Simply we are trying to create a new ITR. New ITR. What exactly this ITR is doing? ITR is nothing but constructor. So we are calling the constructor. What is the constructor we are calling is something like ITR. Now if we observe, so this is the class we are having ITR. Now it is time to implement from this particular iterator. Okay, iterator basically it is a interface. Okay, now once it is implemented, now what we can observe, what are the methods we are having? All the methods are going to be implemented internally. Now I'm calling the constructor. Okay, so this is the constructor it is calling internally. But now we can observe the what are the methods we are having this particular iterator interface here. Has next here, and next element, next method we are having, and remove method, it is the default method, and for each remaining here. Okay, these are the 4 method. Under the 4, 2 are the abstract method, 2 are the default method. Okay, now we'll see how these 4 methods are implemented under this particular ITR class. Okay, under this particular ITR. Now if you see, ITR is one of the nested class. ITR is one of the nested class because this ITR directly we cannot access from this particular outside. Because if you see, the class itself access modifier they provided as a private. Okay, by default itself they provided as a private. Now what we can observe, ITR internally it is trying to implement this particular concept to call iterator here. Okay, so now whenever it is implemented, now what we are doing internally, we are calling this particular constructor, and under this particular constructor, now we are having as next. So this method is implemented. Now how exactly this has next is implemented? Now if you see, cursor not equals to size. Cursor not equals to size. Now what is the cursor value? By default it is 0. What about this particular size? This size is coming from the array list size. This cursor now it is coming from this particular internal like the nested class called ITR. Okay, now when we need to observe this particular cursor value, how the cursor value is going to be changed here. So here we are having the concept called int I is equals to cursor here. Okay, if I greater than or equals to size, then it will try to throw an exception. Otherwise, it will try to do this particular array list dot this dot element data. Okay, because so this dot element data, it will try to point into this particular ITR class. Now I don't want to point to this ITR, so I want to point to the array list class element data, because array list class level we created this particular element data, not under the ITR class here. Okay, now after this we are pointing to this element data. If element data greater than or equals to this particular I, now again we'll get an exception called concurrent modification, and otherwise it will try to provide the I cursor is equals to I plus 1, and we are trying to return as a element data last RET equals to I. Okay, so we'll see how this particular next method is going to be implemented. Now we'll call this next method after getting this particular iterator. Okay, so after this, now what we are doing is, remove method. Now we'll debug this, how this particular remove method is going to work, and the same concept call for each remaining. So these are the four methods we are having. Now these four methods we are going to check here. Now important important method we observe already, something like a list iterator. For the list iterator also we'll observe how these particular concepts are implemented. But currently what we are discussing is iterator. Now iterator, whenever I'm calling the iterator method internally, it is trying to return as a new ITR object. Okay, new ITR. Now what exactly the new ITR will do? It is implemented with has next, and the remaining two methods, remove and for each remaining methods here. Okay, so we observe this, how this iterator is doing. Now whenever I'm trying to initializing with the variable, now this is the iterator object we are going to get. Okay, so after this iterator dot first has next. Okay, now I'm going to call the has next. Now after this iterator dot next method. Okay, now after this iterator dot remove method, and what is the another method? Iterator dot for each remaining. But here if you see, what is expecting here, consumer is expecting. Okay, consumer is expecting. Now you need to provide the action here. Now you need to provide the action. Now we'll discuss this method later, what is the action we need to provide. But currently now we can discuss about the these are the three methods here. So after that we can go for this particular for each remaining, how this particular for each remaining is implemented. Now how we can provide the particular method called action parameter. Now observe here, now I'm trying to run the same example. Okay, contains method to array. Now we observe the iterator. Now iterator we are getting. Now you can see cursor is 0. The last RET value by default we are having -1, expected mod count 4, and current object is 6. Current object is 6. So 0 to 5 is nothing but 6 object we are having. Now what we can do? Now I want to call the has next. Now what exactly this has next is doing it? Now you can see cursor value 0. But what about the size? Size we are having 6 here. So it is not going to be satisfied. Now once this has next is called here, now what I'm doing here, it is trying to return as a true here. Okay, as next basically it will try to return as a boolean, but in next it will try to return as a object as a parameter. Object as a parameter here. Now after this next I'm calling. Now what exactly this next is doing here? Now this is very important here. Checks for so CO modification here. Okay, so check for the core modification, what exactly it is doing here. Now if you see mod count, what is the mod count? 4. Now expected mod count 4. Okay, if any one of the mod count is not matched here, now you'll get this exception here. But in our case, now we are not getting any exception. Cursor value 0, so I greater than or equals to size. But currently size is 6, but cursor value 0. So this condition is not going to be satisfied. Now we are going below. Now we are loading the element data. So element data length. So same size and length. So size and length is same? No. Size is having currently how many values we inserted. Length is trying to provide the how many records we can insert it. Now you can see it is trying to return as a 20, but the size is trying to return as a 6. Okay. Under the array list, currently we inserted 6 records, but same under the array list, we can insert up to 20 records. Okay. So this is the differences size and length here. Now after observe this particular section, so this is also not satisfied the condition. Here we are not going to get any exception. Now cursor. What is the cursor value by default? 0. So I plus 1, something like 1 here. Cursor value, now it is increased to 1. Now what you are doing is in the I position. So still I value 0. In this particular I value, we are trying to return the element data. Now what you observe here, if you see this 0 index location, whatever the value we are having, something like XYZ. Now the same value I'm converting into element types. Okay, now I'm trying to return. So what you will observe carefully, here we'll get as a the XYZ, the first record here. So this is the next method. Now I'm calling the remove method. Now if you observe the remove method, what is the last RET? Something like 0. So just now only we initialize the value. Okay, after this, so check for co-modification. So it is not going to be satisfied the condition. Now array list dot this dot remove. If we observe carefully, array list dot this dot remove. Now we are calling the remove method by providing the index location. Okay. So now we already discussed about the remove method. The same remove method it is going to call. Here, last RET, it's playing as a index role. Now if you want to observe this, now here you can see index 0 we are providing. Now we are loading the value. Now we'll try to remove this. So this remove method already we discussed in the previous session. Okay. So this is the way the object is going to remove here. Now it is removed. So again, whatever the RET value we are having 0, now I'm trying to initialize into cursor. Now the last RET we are making -1, expected mod count. Now we are making as a 5 here. Expected mod count is 5 and the mod count also now it is 5 here. Okay, so this is checking the condition. Now we are coming out of this particular array list. Now if you see one record is removed, because if you call, even though if you're calling this iterator dot remove, but internally what is doing it is trying to call the array list dot remove method, so that whenever we are calling the array list dot remove, so which object is removed here? So earlier we have XYZ, the current XYZ value no longer available. Okay, this is what we need to understand. Okay, so this is what we need to understand regarding this particular iterator. So iterator basically what exactly it will do, if we want to load one by one objects. Okay, so using this particular iterator, we'll try to load one by one object. So how we are going to load one by one object here? Now here, this is a concept here. Now here you can see what I'm doing here. While loop I'm trying to do here. Okay, under this particular while loop, now here I'm going to call this particular iterator dot next here. Now sys out iterator dot next here. Okay, now we don't want to call this remove. Remove, it's trying to remove the objects from this particular iterator here. Now whenever I'm trying to run this, now you can see as next printing the value. Now XYZ is printing. Now 1 2 3 it is printing. 4 5 6 3 6 5. Okay, 1 4 2 and last value ABC. So these are the values are printing one by one here. Now after this, so this has next now what happens internally? So cursor and size both are equals to 0. Like both are, so cursor and sizes are satisfied the condition. Because of this, now what happening internally? It is not going to be returning false. So whenever it is returning false, it is come out of this particular while loop here. This is what we need to understand here. Okay. So now now we come out of this particular method. Now finally we are printing this particular array list. Line number 32, whatever the array list we are having here. Okay. So any questions regarding this iterator or contains and what is another method we observe here? Remove all method. So far whatever the method we discuss here, any questions? Okay, now if you don't have anything, now what I am doing here, after this particular while loop. So if you are not interested to print this particular section of code, what you can do simply, here we are having a concept to call iterator dot for each remaining, and here system dot out dot system dot out dot println. Now I'm going to print this particular, like I'm calling this particular for each remaining, so that it will try to print the all the values here. Here you can see all the values are printing. Now using this particular while loop, so same concept will be print here. Now this is the one of the default method which is provided by the our Java language. Directly you can use this. It will try to print the one by one here. Okay. Now otherwise what you can do now, you need to provide the parameter so that it will try to print this particular method here. Now basically if I show you this, what exactly it is doing it is going to this, but here it should come to here. Now here, now if you observe carefully, here we are having the for loop and it is doing the same. It is doing this particular same concept here. But instead of explicitly writing the for loop or while loop, now you can call this particular method, it will try to repeat the one by one here. It will try to repeat the one by one. So this is what we need to understand here. Basically, before Java 8, so this particular section of code we are going to use to print the one by one value. But after Java 8, this is a method we can use to print the, like to load the one by one elements here. Okay, this is what we need to understand here. So this is the main purpose of this particular the for each remaining method here. Now, so still any questions here? Okay. Now, if you are not interested to print this, now what you can do? So you can go for the lambda related. Now simply value, and here you can provide the sysout. Now use the here same value, but go for the some space here, so that it will try to print the one by one value in the same line. In the same line. Now you can see XYZ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever we are having. But why I'm getting this section of code here? This is printing the last one. Okay, this is what we need to understand. This is the method is implemented from the 1.8 onwards. So this is the main purpose of this particular section of code. Now still any questions? Still any questions regarding this particular iterator? Okay. Now, if you don't have anything, so what are the remaining methods we are having? Contains we observe, iterator we observe, to array also we observe. Now it is also same, but only the difference here we need to provide the type array. Okay. So mainly this is something like a generic type here. We'll discuss later. So this is one of the default method. Okay. So this is the default method. We'll see later. Now coming back to here, after this particular all the method we identified. Now what exactly this particular remove method will do? Okay, remove if. So one of the remove if is one of the Java 8 method which is expecting the functional interface as a parameter. Basically what is saying is filter based on the certain condition. If we want to remove, then we can go for this particular remove if here. Okay, so we'll see how we can go for this particular remove if here. So to understand this, now what I will do, array list dot remove if. Now what you can provide basically, here you need to write the filter boolean value condition. Boolean value condition. Now what exactly it will do? Something like here I'm trying to use the value. Okay, value dot equals here, value dot equals here. Now what I can do? Now if this particular xyz, okay, if this particular xyz is having, then it will try to remove this. Now what exactly this remove is going to do? Now if I'm going to print this, now if you observe xyz 1 to 3, these are the values is printing, but internally if you see, there is no xyz concept. The xyz value, it is not there. The xyz value, it is not there. Okay, xyz value, it is not there. Why it is not there? Because here we provided the condition. The value equals xyz, then the particular record is going to be removed. For example, now what happens? If I provide 789, if I provide 789, now here you can see, so still xyz is there. Because 789, whatever the 789 we given, this object is not available. This object is not available. Because of this, now it is removed here. Because of this, it is does not remove here. If any object is available, the particular object is going to be removed here. Now the remaining values are going to be returning here. Okay, so this is the remove if method, which is also added from the 1.8 onwards. From the 1.8 onwards. Now, what is the another method? Retain all method. Now, what exactly this particular retain all method is doing here? Now, if you observe carefully, now this is expecting the collection of object. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to comment out this all the section of code here. Now, we'll go for this particular retain all here. Array list dot retain all. Now, I'm trying to keep this one. Okay, so whatever we are having, now I'm passing here, so that we are passing collection of object. Now first we'll debug, like without debug we'll see what are the values it's going to print here. Now if you observe carefully, 456, 365 and 142. Okay, now whatever we provided, 456, 365 and 142. Now what happened? So why these values are not printing? XYZ, ABC and 1 to 3. Why these values are not printing here? Because this retain all basically what it will do. Now whatever the parameters or objects we are passing, the parameter objects once it is matched here, so those objects are going to be available and remaining objects are going to be removed here. Remaining objects are going to be removed here. So this is what we need to understand here. So these are about the retain all here. These are about the retain all here. Okay, so now observe carefully what exactly we need to understand here. Now I am going to debug this particular the retain all concept here. Sorry, I come out of this. Now again I'm trying to start in the debug mode. Now you can see, now we are under the retain all. Let me go to this particular method. Now you can see batch remove. Okay, so batch remove. Now what happening internally? The batch remove. Now if you see, so this is we already discussed in the previous example. Whenever we are calling the remove all method, now what happens internally? It is trying to do the same here. Okay, it is trying to do the same. But if you observe carefully, what exactly it is going to do these operations here. Now this is the batch remove method I'm calling. Now required not null we are checking, element data and from value. So what is the from value? 0 and end value 6. Now here you can see it is trying to providing the from and two values here. Okay, from is 0 and end is 6. So between this particular objects array, now it will try to compare the object. Once it is matched, it will keep, otherwise it will remove the unmatched records here. Okay, now we observe. Now here r is equals to from. From is 0. The same value we are initializing into r plus plus. Now it will start from the 0 plus plus here. Okay, now we'll debug this. Now this for loop is satisfied. R equals to n, because r value is 0 but end value 6. It is not going to satisfy. Not going to satisfy. Now if you see this, so C contains E, ER. So in the C, what we passed basically in this particular C, what we passed here. So these are the 456, 365 and 142. So these are the values. Now again I'm saying 456, so 356 and 142. Okay, these are the values. So 0, 1, 2. Now whatever the original object, this is the original object. So it is contained XYZ 1, 2, 3 and again 4, 5, 6, 3, 5, 6 and last call ABC. Okay, so these are the ES here. Now if we observe what happening here. Now here C, what is C? This is a C. Okay, C dot contains ESR. What is the R? Index location. So this is the 0 index location, but currently R value is 0. Now what happens here? This particular 0, now I'm loading this XYZ, okay, and I'm matching with this particular, like this XYZ is available or not, I'm checking. This XYZ is available or not under this particular C here. Currently it is not there. So finally what happens internally? It will try to return as a false. It will try to return as a false. And here false not equals to complement. Complement we are having true. So definitely false, it is not equals to true. Now it is satisfied. Whenever it is satisfied, now what we are doing here? We are doing the break operation. Here if you see, here we are doing this particular break. So we come out of this particular break. First loop is completed. Okay. Now what is R value? 0. So 0 we provided into the W. Okay. W is 0. R is increased to 1. Now it started with the 1 index location. Okay. Now currently R value 1, end value is 6. Okay. Again R is going to be compared with like increment with 1 by 1 here. Now if you see, so same C dot contains. So C dot contains is nothing but, again I'm checking. These are the 3. Now here ESR in the first index location. Okay. So 0 completed. Now we move to the first. From this particular first index location, now again I'm checking. This record is available? No. Now what happens internally? So it is not there. It is not there. Now what happens internally? It will not satisfy this. So if you see, first condition will not satisfy. But second condition, like second iteration, will satisfy. Why it will satisfy? Because if you see, what is the R value currently? R value 2. R value 2. Now this 2, this particular 2, now it is available here. It is available here. So it will satisfy. It will satisfy. Now if you see, once it is satisfied, we are coming below. So ES W plus plus. What is the W value? 0. W value 0. Now in the 0 index location, carefully observe. So in the element data, basically in the 0 position, we are having currently XYZ. But once I perform this 862 line, now this XYZ, now it is replaced with the 456 here. How it is going to be replaced here? Because of this particular line. Okay. What is the E value we are having? 456. Here you can see 456 we are having, and ES array type W. W now will playing as a index role. Now what is the W value? 0. In the 0 index location, what is the value we are trying to initializing here? Something like E value. The E is holding 456. Now if you see this ES, so 0, In the zero index location, we are having x, y, z. But after come out of this, now if you see this, yes, if you see this, yes, x, y, z is not there. Now what is the value we reached here? 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now same thing, first index location 3, 5, 6. Okay. Now if you see this, in the first index location 3, 5, 6. But what we are having earlier in the original data basically 1, 2, 3. Now 1, 2, 3 is replacing with this. Okay. 4, 5, 6 now replacing with this. Now 1, 4, 2 now will replace this. Now the third iteration, if you see this, the third iteration, this is also replaced here. Now finally we'll get as a 1, 4, 2 something in the second index location. Now you can see 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 4 5, 6, 3, 6, 5 and 1, 4, 2. So these are the values we are getting. Now after this, now what happens internally? These three here. Okay. Now we need to observe these are the remaining three methods. These are the remaining three methods here. Now we'll see how it is going to be implemented here. So here it is not satisfied. Second one also, okay, R value is reached here maybe. R value 6. R value reached to this particular condition. Because of this, it's come out of this. Now finally, N minus W. Now what we need to do? These are the values we need to remove. These are the values we need to remove. Now it is going to remove from the shift to tail over gap. This method is going to take care of removing this particular all the unwanted stuff here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand the retain all method. Now very important, this retain all basically only it will keep the matched records and unmatched records are going to be removed. Now if you can see 0, 1, 2, the remaining three are removed here. The remaining three are removed. The size also now it is decreased to 3. The size also now it is going to decrease to this particular 3. So this is all about the retain all method. Now we'll discuss about the whatever the 5 methods we are having. So this 5 method will continue in the tomorrow session here. So far whatever we discussed, these are the important methods here. Okay, so now what you need to understand basically, so you need to practice one by one method whatever we discussed so far here. These are the methods are very important methods here. Okay, so still any questions? Okay, so if you don't have anything, I am stopping the session and we'll continue tomorrow.